Sean Morris with Truth, Lies, and Political Bullshit.
And this is Tim with the fifth floor. Let's get
Welcome
started.
to Cohoes, the good, bad, and ugly. I'm going to use this Timmy's line because I just cut him off. Let's get moving. Hey, Tim.
Yeah, yeah. And look at some good things that took place over the last week or two. The Cohoes Police Department has saved a 13-year-old girl. You want to go into that?
Well, hey, I just put it up in the corner for everybody to see. I mean, listen, the Cohoes police are fantastic. They're a small department, but they do some big arrests because they are, some of the best police officers in the capital region. I guess what happened is like everybody else, when they get online and they start chatting in these chat rooms,
Yep.
young girl meets guy says he's a young guy. They go to hook up. He's, in his 20s, she's 13 or so. And somehow, the police were able to nab it before it got to become a tragedy, and they were able to arrest the guy. And you'll see the guy up there in the corner. So kudos to the Cohoes police, man, because God only knows what would happen to this young girl. These are freaking
Yeah,
animals, man,
yeah.
and it's kind
Right.
of scary.
Yeah, this guy came up from Catskill.
Yeah, yeah. So
Drove
you
up
get,
from Catskill.
yeah. So
And,
he was. You don't know what his intentions were, but they were bad. There's
right,
no
right.
doubt, no doubt about it. But that's one of the good things we have in a small city. We have a pretty good police department. We have some great cops, and I just want to applaud them for
Yep.
making sure that they caught this guy and this young girl is safe. I can only imagine her parents and people who love her are so happy that nothing bad happened. And again, kudos. Let's jump over to another one, Timmy, because this is another one right here.
Yeah,
Uh,
and while you're doing that, Sean, I want to just say, look, at parents have to keep an eye on what their kids are doing nowadays. Okay, this girl managed to get out of the house and into this guy's car. Okay, and he was tracked down by the police. Okay, using various different systems available to police nowadays. But you know what? If you're not keeping an eye on what your kids are doing, especially the young ladies like this, okay, a tragedy could have hurt.
well, there's no doubt this guy didn't come here to just be a friend. This is a
Right.
tragedy that was waiting to happen, and if not
Yeah.
good police
So
work by our
right.
cops.
Yeah, and even in Cohoes, this stuff can happen. So we got something else going on too.
Yeah, so in the other, I just put another one, Timmy, up in the top corner, and this is alarming to me as well because this is happening time and time and time again. One of my biggest cheerleaders have always been the seniors because I have a soft spot in my heart for senior citizens. They got me to run for political office. I made friends with thousands of them over the years as a firefighter going to
Yeah.
the senior centers, and I care about them because I believe everything I own goes back to somebody who paved the way before me, and I always wanted to pay homage to those people. So I'm a big supporter of the seniors. But this is another thing that's happening. This is a drug bust. They arrest this guy right in the middle of the day selling drugs right over by Cayuga Plaza. And we're seeing this more and more and more. These senior centers are no longer only subsidized for seniors. If they're getting federal funds, we have to let people in that have these so-called, diseases and disabilities, and drug addiction, obviously, and alcoholism is labeled a disease. So now we have all these old, fragile senior citizens living with these people who are getting drunk and doing drugs right in their home. Them senior
Yeah.
centers are their home, and
Yeah.
nobody's doing nothing about it. Nothing's being done about it. And even if on the local level you can't change it, you certainly can be the advocate for it, like I was. I was writing letters to Congress. I was writing letters to the state. I was constantly fighting to make sure that we protected our seniors. Nothing is being done. And here's a great example of a bunch of people who are in their later years having to live next to this animal who's out there selling drugs and bringing crazy ass people to the old senior center. Kind of scary. And I wish somebody would step up to protect these people because if they don't, they're very vulnerable.
I agree, and that was another kudos to the Cohoes Police Department. So they're these guys here. They're basically unsung heroes. You don't hear really much of what they do, and I bet you people of Cohoes didn't know about these, at least these two events. Okay, unless they seen it in a newspaper or blogs or somewhere else. So we want to make sure that those people didn't get a chance to see it are seeing it from us.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. You know, our police are heroes, and firefighters, police, and these people dedicate their lives to the safety of our community. And all they do is get shit on. Tim, really, we live in a world
Yeah,
right now. I wouldn't want to be a cop, right? They're
yeah,
disrespected. They're pushed to the absolute limits, and it's all because of the morons like the state assembly who pass all these bills. You know, trying to gather new votes from certain groups of people, and they have this bail reform and the raise the age,
yeah,
all the shit that
exactly.
is really meant for one thing: to allow criminals to enjoy the support of their legislators, so that when it comes time to vote, these morons get voted in. Because slowly but surely, normal everyday people are starting to realize that these morons are ruining our country, they're ruining our state, they're ruining our lives, especially here in New York State. And little by little, people are falling off. So you know how you have to stay in power? You have to find more people to join your cause.
Yeah, and you know what? You talk to any police officer in Cohoes, and they will tell you too. And it's probably more than just that. Okay, I have nephews that are police officers and water police, and basically, police have become nearly powerless. Okay,
Well, they're public
uh,
enemy number one, because here's
yeah,
the problem.
yeah,
If they even do anything that remotely looks like they did something inappropriately, and most of it's just
yeah,
bullshit video that
right,
somebody takes at the end
yeah,
of or the beginning of
yeah,
an incident,
yep,
they're going to lose their jobs and they're going to go to jail. We're
yeah,
passing laws that put cops in jail, defund the cops, and we give the criminals all of these benefits. Now, I don't know if you
yeah,
watched this, Timmy. It didn't happen here locally. I think it happened in California, one of the biggest shitholes in America right now, where these liberals have given criminals the absolute right to go in and steal anything they want out of a store, as long as it's under
yeah,
$900, right? So this young lady goes to the bank and she takes money out, and this scumbag follows her for like 10 miles, and then he jumps her, and he ends up body slamming her on the ground, and she's now paralyzed, and
wow,
he steals her money. And I was just catching a glimpse of it before we came on the air, where in California they're going to do something to reduce the amount of bail the guy has to pay because he can't afford it. He just crippled and paralyzed a young girl. He robbed her. They should shoot him in town fucking square. Oh,
yeah,
I'm sorry, Mrs. Dingley.
oh, jeez,
I'll bleep that out. That's
ah,
how mad I get, though, because look at the world we live in. Imagine this criminal paralyzes this young lady.
yep,
She can't walk,
yep,
steals her money, and then the pity is on the freaking criminal. That's
yep,
happening everywhere, and it happens in this city as well. Don't be
yep,
fooled that the people who make the decisions. I mean, we had the mayor that was more concerned about marching with Black Lives Matter, and then used it as, oh my God, when I took over office, we had all these things going on. Let me march with Black Lives Matter is a political organization where some people are getting rich and it's doing nothing for black kids that are getting killed out there every day. So again, another stupid move by the mayor of our city,
well,
who has
yeah.
quickly become known as what, Timmy? Do you know what he's
Well,
become?
well, it's Mayor Steeler.
Well, I want to say kudos to the cops one more time. They've done
Yeah,
some great jobs. Our cops and Cohoes are doing a fantastic job.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah,
but I want to talk to you about something, Tim. When we do this podcast, we talk about the good, bad, and ugly. And we don't usually talk about ugly in people, right? We
right.
usually talk about ugly in processes and certain things they voted on that really hurt the city more than they improve the city, or they
Yeah,
waste our money. We talked about ugly, spending $6 million on lights to save on the bill, and it only cost the bill or added more money to the
yeah. It's
bill. It
going to
costs us
cost
more.
more in the end. It's going to
Right.
cost more in the
Those
end.
things we talk about as being ugly. But I got to tell you something. And it took a lot for me to do this, because I wanted to restrain myself, because I don't want people to think that this podcast is just about picking on somebody. But our mayor, a former state police commander, is truly an ugly leader. And the reason I say that is, and I have spoken to many employees, they have never been disrespected and treated so hostilely in their life, and then disciplined where they're losing money and taking food away from their family for the most ridiculous shit.
Yep,
I know that they suspended a guy for 45 days. I've been in a labor representative and in
yep,
unions for my
yep,
whole life. Never did I see somebody get suspended for 45 days. It is egregious when it's
yeah,
only for not cutting the grass as fast as they wanted the grass cut. Maybe these guys are busy doing something else,
yep,
right? because
yeah,
they have licenses and they're running our freaking water plant up there. And that water plant has to take priority over whether the grass gets cut. We have people that cut grass, but this was just an attack on people. He's done it to two people up there. He has suspended people who have never been in trouble in their lives, not for a day,
yeah,
not a written warning, but an
yeah,
actual take money away from you. You know why? Because he wants people to kiss his ass and bow down and kiss his ass and his ring and his feet and whatever else.
yeah,
Because that's what they do in the state police. Because that's like a paramilitary type organization, right?
yeah, yeah,
Here
yeah,
we're talking about people that pack their lunchbox and go out there and do jobs that this guy would never, ever, ever do because it's beneath him. And then he disrespects them, and he's caused such a bad working environment that I have talked to people. They've actually reached out to me in every department and said, "Working here makes us sick. We don't even want to go to work anymore."
yeah, yeah. Well, look,
And
we and just recently, okay, they want to bang a guy, take 20 days off, suspension without pay, simply because at an open public meeting, he referenced that after he was insulted, um, he said this is a joke and the mayor's a clown. 20 days, okay, for calling the mayor a clown. Yeah,
well, there's the mayor, and he looks kind of like a clown to me. And I'm going to tell you
yeah,
something.
right.
I don't want to call the guy a clown because I want to respect the office, but the man is a clown. And what
Yeah,
he's doing to people, Timmy,
yeah,
is horrible. And these people, if they deserve a punishment,
yeah.
I get it. I get it. I'm just got to keep bleeping it up there because that's what they do in the circus.
Yeah,
Clown,
look, it's
clown,
a
clown.
look at, but they, you don't leave your First Amendment rights at your doorstep, okay? When you go to work, okay? But this happened not while he was at work. This happened when he was, basically a private citizen on his own, okay, taxpayer, and he's just at a council meeting, and then this exchange happens, okay? Okay, if the mayor can insult someone from the bench, okay, then you have a right to respond in kind. Okay, and that's all that happened. And
Listen,
then
this
what
is
is the result? 20 days suspension
right.
without
This is
pay.
a moment of people who are debating in issues of importance to them. That gets a little heated.
Yes.
It gets out of control. Let's just say it is not appropriate
Yeah.
to call your boss a clown at a council meeting in front of a whole bunch of people. It is also incumbent for the mayor not to insult the employee at a council meeting. But you can see how it only works one way, right? The employee can't suspend the mayor, but the mayor goes after this guy not for a week, not for 2 days, 20 days. Can you
Right.
imagine? I would lose my house if I didn't have 20 days worth of pay. Most people live paycheck to paycheck. And it is absurd to think that this guy is so thin skinned that he could go after all these people, suspend, and then have a heated exchange. And he can't accept the fact he's got thin skin, and he goes after
Yeah.
this guy for 20 days. Now, listen,
You're right. Yeah, it's men versus men. Okay, he needs to just man up sometimes. Look, I've been in these council meetings. I've been back and forth with some of these guys. Okay, Chris Briggs and stuff like that. Okay, but the bottom line is that at the end of that thing, you move on. But what these people can't move on. Okay, they turned around and look at if it's an in kind response, and I believe it was. He turned around and he said, "Well." The mayor says, you're just a laborer. Well, look at those people that work for the city employee are not just labor. Every one of them have a valued job to do that benefits the
absolutely.
people of Cohoes. And here he is insulting the very people that are helping put bread on their own tables, but everybody else. Okay, the people that pick up our garbage, pick up our grass and leaves in our police department, and fire department. He's going to knock off this stuff, and he's going to, quite frankly, Mayor Keeler or Mayor Steeler, as I call you, you need to grow up.
Yeah, he did. Here's the, and again, we just talked about the cops doing some wonderful things, and
Yeah,
I have great respect for our cops, but this is all he cares about. I had, sadly, and I know these people. I've lived in the city my whole life. I
yeah,
become the mayor of the city, and I run into three issues, right? Two with cops and one with a fireman. Ironically, I was a fireman, and I know all the cops. And we thought long and hard, took advice from our attorneys, took advice from other outside agencies when they were looking at some of our people for things that were done. And I had to make some tough decisions. One cop got suspended for 2 weeks, but I wouldn't have suspended him for 2 weeks. But he lied to me, lied at the meeting, and lied on an affidavit. That's a felony, and he could have been fired for that, right? We
Yep.
suspended him for 2 weeks. I was going to give him a written warning. I said to him, "Don't lie to me, and we'll work through it, man. We all have screw ups. We all make mistakes."
Yep.
The other one made a mistake and then lied about it as well. At least I was told he lied about it. Signed a document that said that he lied about it, and whether he did or not, I don't know, because soon as Keeler became the mayor, the first thing he did is ripped up those disciplines and ripped up the deals that we had with those police officers.
Yep.
One of them got promoted to a pretty good job. The other one got promoted to a pretty good job. And the other one who was got himself really jammed up, and I still helped him out and said, "Hey, this is what you'll have to do for the repercussions." He ripped that one up as well, and then that one came back to haunt him a few months later. But you know what? These were pretty shitty acts that were done. He does nothing to those three people, nothing. Okay.
Well, it doesn't know how
But
to
he goes
handle
after
people.
DPW, goes after
Yeah.
water workers, goes after firemen. He
Right.
goes after them with vicious venom because he's a mean, rotten guy who wants to destroy them because they did not bow down to him.
And
And
and these are union people he's going after too.
well, they're union people, and that's another thing that I wanted to get to. Let me bring up another
Yeah.
two disciplines, right? We talked about not cutting the grass 45 days, right?
Yeah.
So the president of one of the unions sends an email to the city council. And I believe he has all the right in the world to do that. When you're the president of the union, you should be
Yeah.
able to use all your influence politically,
Yeah.
right? And you should be able to talk to the policymakers of this body, saying, "Do you know the mayor's doing this, and you should be doing this, and you should look at funding this, and so forth and so on." That's just part of the everyday process of being the president of the union. You know what they did? They wrote him up on charges, and they went in front of this arbitrator. And this arbitrator upheld the suspension for sending an email and communicating with the city council. Now, there's two things that irritate the shit out of me, Timmy.
Yeah. Yeah.
One
Yeah.
is shame on every single council member in this city that did not stand up and say, "We will not sit back and let you discipline employees," because they reach out to their representatives.
That's
We
right.
are the
Yeah.
representatives. How dare you say the guy can't talk to me, and if he does, you're going to suspend him? Every freaking council member should resign over that, because it's unfair that the city can attack these guys for reaching out to their political representative, and those clowns sit there and say nothing. The clowns that they are sit there, Timmy, and say absolutely nothing.
Well, they're bobbleheads. Right.
Should be all of them,
Right.
because
Yeah.
members of that council that are unions. Where's Billy McCarthy, big union guy? Where's Justin Alicio, big union guy? Where are these guys saying, "Listen,
Yeah.
time out. They want to reach out to us. We support that. How dare you suspend them?" Where's their voice? I hear nothing, because this city is falling apart. This city's being run into the ground. The administration is horrible. The council are horrible. They take no action. They stand up for nobody but themselves, and it's disgusting on every level.
They're just bobbleheads down there when they put documents and records and resolutions and local laws and ordinances in front of them. They're just bobbleheads.
Well,
Okay?
I'm going to tell you something.
But they don't stand up for the everyday common people.
When I was in the county
It's a
legislature, if one of those guys wanted to come to me and somebody went after them for that, I would stand on the top of the mountain. I'd fight every single bastard in politics and say, "Who are you to come after these people?" See, in the county leds, they one time stopped the guy from speaking, right?
Yeah.
They wouldn't let him speak. He only won about $280,000 in some kind of lawsuit against his First Amendment rights to come and speak. I mean,
Yep.
these people are morons. Listen, you don't have to like what they say. Let them come, let them speak, have thick skin, figure out why there's so much tension, get together and work it out. If this was
Right.
me, Timmy,
Yeah.
if this was me, I'd have 60 TV stations and 1,000 people screaming at me like I was some kind of monster. You remember when I tried to change the rules for the firefighters because I knew that that the lieutenants in the fire department weren't going to be qualified to become the captains, and the captains were going to retire. And how do you fill these spots if they're not qualified? So I tried to change it. Keeler came down to City Hall with 100 people, news stations, everybody saying, look at Morris, he's trying to manipulate the civil service for his friends. You know what they just did secretly? Exactly what I told them they needed to
Yeah,
do when I tried to do it. They secretly changed it because they didn't have nobody to take the jobs. They're morons.
right. Yeah, several captains, I believe, retired.
That's
And,
right. And the lieutenants didn't have enough time, so they had to go and change the requirements. The same thing that I came to the civil service excuse me, to
yeah,
do, they came after me like I was some kind of monster. That goes to show you how ignorant, arrogant, and foolish they are because they
yeah,
don't even know what the hell they're doing. They just attack people. But listen, if you're a union guy, if you're a union, where the hell's CSEA? You let your own guy get decimated uh, because he emailed somebody in the council. I don't give a shit if they've been 10 cases that say he can't do that, which I can't believe there are. That union should come down with 1,000 hammers and say, we're not going to stand for this. You're not going to discipline our local leaders in our union because they contact the freaking city council, right?
yeah.
And if I was a union, and this is just a personal opinion, but if I was a union, the first person that I would strike off of every arbitration list is a guy named Jeffrey R. Cassidy. And he lives just up the street from the city of Cohoes. He's got a Cohoes address. I'm not going to say where he lives, but it's not too far from our city hall. So he must. And I'm just saying this. I don't know this for truth. I'm not saying it's factual. But did he know somebody? Because how can an arbitrator say that we're going to discipline you and suspend you for 45 days for cutting the grass? He is a moron. He shouldn't be on the list. They should never pick him again.
Yeah, I agree.
To
Yeah,
every union member, call your unions and tell them the name, and don't pick this guy, Jeffrey R. Cassidy, arbitrator. He ain't an arbitrator. An arbitrator listens to all sides and comes up with a fair solution.
yeah.
45 days fired, or not,
They're
excuse me, 45 days suspension for not cutting the
they're,
grass.
they're more or less like a mediator. They're
No,
supposed to.
no, these guys are
They're
arbitrators.
supposed
They make a
right,
decision, Timmy. They
right.
make a freaking decision. You go in front of them and you go, Timmy did this. And the city says, Timmy did that. And then the union comes in and says, no, he didn't do this. And let's just say the arbitrator says, okay, we found it that you guys should have cut the grass. It was insubordination.
Well,
You
look at
don't give somebody 45 freaking days without pay for something so minor. You address it by saying, well, you get a written warning, especially when you're talking about people that have never, ever been in trouble in 20 years of employment. It's horseshit.
right,
And
right.
if the union lets this happen, if CSEA lets that happen, they ought to get rid of CSEA because it's worthless. It's got no value if you're going to let your guy who's a leader get hung out to dry because you contacted the council.
Right, right, right. I
So I hope they
agree.
never pick that guy ever. I think every union should scratch him as their first choice. What happens is they send you a list, Timmy, with the name
Yeah,
of all these arbitrators,
yeah.
and you scratch them. And if you don't come up with one that you can all agree on that list, they send you another list, and that's the last list you get a choice from. And if you can't agree, they'll appoint one. But you certainly can scratch that guy's name off. And if I was a union member and I had a union attorney representing me, or union representing me, again, Jeffrey R. Casey doesn't seem to be a guy that you want if you're a union guy because he suspends people egregious acts. There's a Section 75 of the state civil service laws is the disciplinary process, right? Article 75 of the civil service law is when an arbitrator's decision is so arbitrary and capricious and that the most people would look at it, holy Christ, you suspended somebody for 45 days. That's when you try to take and have that arbitrator's award overturned by the courts. And out of principle, CSCA should have done that.
Well,
But
and
horrible union.
and yeah, and here's what I think on something too. Um, During this recent event in which a DPW employee had an exchange with the mayor, and then and there was well, you're a joke and you're a clown, and this and that. The bottom line is, it took about probably about 20 days or so. They finally end up sending a letter to him threatening for a suspension of 20 days without pay. And the person, of course, that signed it was DBW Commissioner Hennessy, who wasn't even at the meeting. Okay.
But I think we had this conversation.
Well, we did.
That's par for course. The
What?
administrator of the department sends the letter, but the reality is it comes from the city attorney who drafts the letter,
Yeah.
and then the guy is informed by his boss,
Hmm.
and then when they go to arbitration, they'll have the mayor who's going to be the clown guy who's
Why doesn't the mayor sign it, or the
it's
or
just the way it goes, Timmy. At the end of the day, the letter is sent by your department head. That's just par for course. You know, he's the department head. He sends the letter and says you're being suspended. The mayor doesn't send the letter. The mayor's got
who,
to.
who's the one that's saying he's suspended though? Who's making that call?
Well, obviously, it's going to be made by the mayor who tells the department
Department
head
head.
to suspend him.
So
Yeah.
he's the chicken shit
Well,
coward
no, it's
that,
just semantics. It's just
that won't sign his name as a co-signee.
well, it's
And
the semantics of the game. But at the end of the
yeah,
day, it's the mayor whose feelings are hurt because
he
he
was called the clown, which he
he was
is.
called a clown. Whether he
Well, he
is or
is.
not is remain to be seen.
Uh,
I'm
well,
going to
it's,
say
it's a matter of everybody's opinion. Okay.
I'm going to say that anybody that would suspend somebody for 20 days because your feelings got hurt is a clown.
Yeah, that's
He
right.
should be. He ought to be ashamed.
Mhm.
He's the big tough state trooper, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I wouldn't want to be in a foxhole with him.
Well, yeah, because he'd have his head up his ass because he'd be hiding. I
Yeah,
mean,
he'd put up a white flag.
why you want to have such a contentious relationship with everybody? Look at I understand the mayor's going to make decisions and the employees are going to get mad. That's part of the everyday business. I
Yeah,
get it.
yeah,
You know, one of the most detrimental statements to any success and moving forward in life is that's not how we did it before, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah,
change is not easy, and those who make the change often have to deal with the pushback of those who don't like the change. And
yeah,
if you let them push you back and you don't stand your ground, then change never happens. I made change. I understood the pushback, but it wasn't to be vindictive and hurt people. It was because I seen how I had to run the city to move it forward. I wouldn't be even criticizing the guy right now if that's what he was doing, but that's not what he's doing. He goes after people and hurts them and hurts their families because he has this
he gets
I'm
his
the
feelings
king.
hurt.
Yeah,
Right,
he's
right,
got the
right.
I'm the king complex.
Yeah, well, it's like Longshanks, okay, with that in a movie there. Turned around, the guy didn't agree with him, he threw him out the window.
Yeah, that's what he's
You
doing
get
to all these
This is what
workers.
he's yeah, exactly what he's doing, and it doesn't matter, okay? It's all city employees, okay?
It's
And
a vast majority of them. He's
if
good
it,
to the police because that's they're all part of that semi-military style,
yeah, yeah,
and so the police act differently towards their boss, and I get it, and they should, right? Firemen is the same way. And I'm not saying that any employee should disrespect their boss, but you're going to have arguments. Christ, in the fire department, you would have thought we are going to have fist fights. But you walked away and said, cooler heads will prevail. You didn't go, I'm suspending you for 20 days because you swore or you called me a
yeah,
jerk or you
yeah,
called me a clown. Look at the guy must think he is a clown
yeah,
if he's got to take such offense to the fact that somebody called him in and he's got to write him up. But
yeah.
I hope this union comes down and says, we're going to fight this vigorously because, uh, you know, people say things when they're mad.
Well, if they don't fight it, then there's no point of even being in a union.
Well,
I
they
mean,
I
that's what
look at
they're there
I
for,
hate
you
look
know?
at I would recommend they start looking for a different union because the fact that a guy could be suspended for emailing the council and that you'll let a guy get suspended for 45 days for not
Yeah,
cutting the grass and you
yeah,
don't do anything to fight those things. Even if you lose, sometimes you got to fight the battle.
yeah,
Okay. And
yeah.
to suspend somebody, can you imagine having 30 days of your life right now with no money in the most difficult time in the world? Why,
Right,
that
right.
son of
I
a bitch
agree.
sits up at his house with a $90,000 a year pension. Means if he
Right,
never worked a day in his life, he's going to get 10,000 a month. I didn't make 10,000 a month the whole time I worked, right?
yeah, right,
He's going to
right.
make
Yep,
10,000 a month sitting home because he was the big shot in the state police, and he makes 80,000 being the mayor. So imagine he has an $180,000 job, lives in a mansion, drives around in matching convertible Corvettes, lives this little life of luxury. And I don't begrudge him. God bless him. He went out there and did what he had to do. But then you go and take away somebody's livelihood that's making $40,000, $50,000 who lives paycheck to paycheck because you got your feelings hurt.
Well,
You
they're
are a
just
moron. You are a
yeah.
clown. You are a
Well,
fool. You
because
should
they're
be
just
embarrassed.
labor. They're just laborers in his mind, just labor.
Well, those
But no
laborers were.
value on what people do. Every one of them have a
Wasn't
value.
there value when they were up working on his house and he got away with that? Wasn't there value when they're up there dumping dirt on his land,
Mm.
grading his land, stuff that you and I would have to pay thousands of dollars
Oh
for?
yeah,
And then he gets a letter from the district attorney that never sends out letters? That's because he's a former cop,
yeah, right, right.
right?
Yep,
And,
yep.
and so they get away with everything.
Especially him. Look at all the work and all the work that's been done up there in Western Avenues. You're supposed to have a state stormwater permit process for when you fill in over an acre. He did well over an acre, right? But the state won't do anything about it. He's essentially untouchable. Okay, and it's all because as soon as you mention he was a commander of the New York State Police, okay, all the roadblocks go up. Go.
Just look at the piece. I know that my computer's lagging for some reason, Timmy. We've been having some problems up here with our internet. But just think about the piece of land across the street that floods that house next to it every freaking day.
Yeah,
Another
yeah.
piece of land that was a valley that was filled in to become now a mountain.
Right, right.
Again, all I'm saying is that they attack other people for worse, or they do worse things
For
for
the
themselves.
right.
This is what they're attacking other people
And
for.
they attack the common man while they live like in opulence in a sense.
Potholes all over the city. You know where they're
Yeah.
fixing the potholes in front of his house. All of the land, all of the roadway got broken up by him having private people come on his land, dumping, and they break up the whole road. He should have to pay for that, like anybody else who's got dumping going.
Well, they had a
Should have a dump.
contractor. A contractor came up and passed the whole length of that thing. I have a photo. I have a photo of it.
And also at DPW up there doing it. And I'm not saying that he did anything wrong because I don't know that for sure. But when you have trucks going on your property, breaking up the road, you need to pay for it to get it fixed yourself. But no, we have the city up there working on it. So all those people that you suspend and you threaten and they're working in a hostile work environments, they were okay when they were working on your house. I think these people like the guy who's being written up. Do you know the guy that's being written up for the 20 days because he called him a clown is in his late 70s, middle 70s,
Yeah.
and they didn't like something he said, so they took him off the job. They throw him on the back of the garbage truck. Tim, he's 70 some years old.
75. Yeah.
75 years old. And because they get mad at him, because he speaks up to the bad things that he sees. He speaks up when he sees bad things. He speaks up when he sees things that ain't right. He speaks up when he thinks people are being mistreated. And they throw him on the back of the garbage truck. Every single thing that happens in this city is a vindictive action that is overseen by the mayor of the city. And I wanted to
Right.
believe he was a good guy. People say, "Oh, you're just mad at him because he beat you." He didn't beat me. My wife beat me. There's a lot of reasons I didn't win that election by 80 votes, right? And there's a lot of reasons I think if I ran again today, I'd beat him. Especially the fact that I built the city up, and we had the best city in the capital region, and now we're right back at the bottom. And employees hate them, and firemen are being screwed over. Our ambulance system is all screwed up. The man has made a mistake and screwed up every single thing he's touched. And all they're going to say to me is, "Oh, we got 10 million, or we got," all they got was money from a government. The government gave the government money. That is not being the mayor. I could sit back and never go down City Hall. If the government in the state's going to pay to fix everything, then what the hell we need a mayor for? That's just all propaganda. Where's your private investment? Thank God you got a guy who's opening Smiths, and I hope he's very successful. But guess
Yeah.
what? That had nothing to do with the city. That was Danny O giving a year's
Yep.
free rent and Manny giving a free website. And the guy saying, "Well, I have the money. I'll go in there for free for a year. If I don't succeed, I'm out of there." Right? But
Yeah. Yeah.
again, every single thing they've touched in the city has gone bad, and nothing worse than the employees. And we spent a
Yeah.
lot of time talking about the ugly today because it's really just got me so upset because I know these people. You know these people.
Oh yeah. I do.
And they stop at my house and say, "You can't believe how it is to work for these people. They're just horrible. They treat you like shit." And I couldn't imagine going. I'd have been fired because
I
I've had many fights with
yeah.
John McDonald. Believe me, when I was the
Oh yeah.
president of the union.
Yeah.
Clown. If that was the only word that we talked and called each other, then that was a nice clean conversation.
Yeah, I agree. Look at the, and if you take these the DBW employees, but the same thing, I get phone calls, I get private messages. These people are so stressed out that they're looking for some kind of support because they're not getting it from the city, and for the most petty thing, they get suspended from work. And it's not a day or two. Okay, it's 3 weeks. Okay, no pay.
It's life
And
changing money for them.
right, it is, and this is a hostile environment in which these guys are working for people who work their butts off for the people of Cohoes. Okay.
Timmy, let me tell you a funny story, right? So I had to suspend a police officer. And believe me, I thought long and hard about it because I didn't want to do it. But it was what all of the parties at a meeting combined said, this is the direction we think we need to take. And I was like, okay, we'll take it because you guys are the bosses. I have you in charge, and I'll have to, believe that you're giving me the right
Yeah,
information and we're making the right decision.
that's what you delegate authority for.
Right. 2 weeks later, I'm in the newspaper, front page, saying that I use my police department as a personal police posse to go out there and harass the cops and harass people.
Right.
Every single thing I did was in the Times Union because
Yep.
they hated me. You know why they hated me? Because I stood up for myself, but they hated me. Can you imagine if I was involved in all of these conflicts where I would be? They would have to stop the Times Union and write the Shawn Morris newspaper, the Capital Region. Now,
Right.
I don't hear anybody,
Yeah.
nobody, for no newspaper now coming in the city talking about hundreds and hundreds of problems and all of these employees, not one, not two, not three, not four,
Hey.
50, 60, complaining that they're being bullied in a
Yeah.
hostile work environment and calling the cops on their bosses. Isn't it ironic that the guy who's going to get suspended for 20 days just recently before he got suspended was that the ethics board filed a complaint against the people that he feels are harassing him and
And
age
it
discriminating
and it
against
was the
him.
very next day is when the incident happened at the council meeting. The very next day, and you know what Keeler did? Well, I'm sorry, Steeler. Mayor Steeler did. He made reference to the fact that he was at a hearing complaining about what was going on with the management of DPW. So they already knew. Okay, that the ethics board was looking into charges against someone. And what did they do? They go after this guy, and it was retaliation, Sean.
Of
That's what it
course,
was.
of course.
It was retaliation for just standing up for yourself.
Look what they're doing to the firemen.
Yeah,
The firemen have
retaliation.
all the right in the world to say, we can't do this job and you are doing an injustice to this community. You're a fool. You're incompetent. You don't know what you're talking about. Look what you're doing to the citizens. People waiting 2-3 hours for ambulances. We don't have enough firefighters as it is, and you're putting us in these terrible predicaments.
Yeah, yeah.
And what does he do? He cuts them down to the lowest number ever. Now, let me just tell you something. They're down to five. They went from 5 to 4 back up to 5 because it's a political year.
Right,
Okay.
right, right, right.
And
Yeah,
because it's a political year. But if it wasn't, he would cut them down to anything that he could because how dare firemen talk about firefighting? Because he's the king and he
yeah,
should know more about firefighting than anybody. You know what I see the guy every day? He drives his little truck in the middle of the freaking winter when it's dark with his sunglasses on, like he's some kind of macho man, Randy Savage. What he is an incompetent man who picks on people, who hurts people, who don't kiss his ass.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that has to be the worst type of person in charge of all these employees.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. He just can't manage people. Has no people management skills, despite all of his years' experience as a commander of state police. In
He,
fact, I've even had people tell me he was a good guy, a really good guy, until he came into power, and especially as a commander of state, and that's when it went south.
Listen,
Okay.
I don't know what he did for the state police, but I had the privilege of having conversations with a few of them, and they thought he was a dope. Nice
Uh,
guy, but he was a dope, and he got political favors, pushed him all the way up to the top.
yeah.
And you only get to the top when you have political people in your corner. And I have to imagine, and I
Yeah.
don't know this for a fact.
John McDonald.
No, I would think Kenneth Drury because Kenneth Drury
Yeah,
was a powerful man back then,
yeah,
and I listened to his State of the City, and Kenneth Drury introduced it and said, "What a great job! What great job! What half the businesses left." The
Yeah.
city's filthy dirty. Code enforcement can't even keep up. We had code enforcement kicking such great ass on all these absentee landlords that we stopped even getting fines because they all fell in line. Do you know that we passed a law that said if you bought a house and you weren't going to live in it and you were going to be a landlord, you had to attend a class so that you would understand all the expectations that the city of Cohoes um, expected you to meet in order to be a landlord. And that including garbage and when people moved out and pets and picking up shit. We forced them to come to these meetings. There ain't no more. They don't have no more meetings. What they have now is, rumor has it, and rumors could be anything, but I think it's probably more than a rumor. I got some good information, but there was a place where 16 people were living in one little apartment.
Yeah.
And if
Yep.
it wasn't for somebody filing a complaint, they would have lived there forever because code enforcement's only got a few guys.
Right.
This guy doesn't have any policies that he put in place to ensure that the garbage ain't piling up in the alleyways and people are moving out throwing their shit. Timmy, let me just tell you something. When I was in office, if somebody moved out of an apartment, took all the garbage and threw it in an alleyway or threw it in the sidewalk, you know what we did? We
Tell
had a
me.
crew going around. We went over, picked it up, and we sent a $500 ticket to the landlord.
Wow.
I can tell you that. And I told you this before. I think we raised almost 15 grand the first year. The second year, we raised nothing. You know why we raised nothing? Because the landlords understood what we expected. We
Yep.
wanted a place where people would have beautiful gateways when they drove through. They would recognize they're coming into a classy city. And that once they got into the city, it was clean and pleasant and a place that you wanted to visit. Now it's dirty, it's crime ridden.
Well, did you see the bridge down there on what was it? Ontario Street, was it?
Yeah, it looked like somebody
Right.
hit it with a plow, maybe,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. And so, people are saying, well, it's unsafe to walk on. So, things are crumbling still.
well,
Other
listen,
people are posting photos down by Canal Square, dog poop all over the place.
we passed the strongest law in the
You
in the
know?
in the capital region about dog crap. Look it up. Go to the newspaper. Type up Cohoes dog
Yeah,
poop. $500. You
yeah.
let your dog poop. Guess what? You're
It's
coming
all
in and you're going to
right.
pay $500. We also were trying to work with landlords that had multiple unit houses that we
Hmm.
could put up the dog bags in the stations so they'd have the dog bags. We took all kinds of approaches. We had the machine going down and cleaning up all of the walkways where people walk down by the island.
Yeah.
Um, we did everything to make Cohoes proud, and Cohoes isn't proud right now. And I see people every day, even people that didn't vote for me, telling me, man, we made a mistake because this guy is horrible. So unfortunately, I don't know if anybody can beat him. I know Ed Kenner's running, but he's all by himself. I asked people if they'd go out and carry petitions just to get him on the ballot, but people are disengaged. They really are.
Well, Kinner just put up his own Kinner for Mayor Facebook page. He's been sending out people to join his page, take a look at it. But it's an uphill battle for him. But in absence of anyone else right now, you know, we could end up with Keeler for another 4 years. It's going to be a disaster.
Well, it's a disaster.
It's a disaster now.
Look, there's things that will happen in your community that you have no control over, right? So if the plow was plowing, and it doesn't mean it was our plow, but
Yeah,
a plow truck going out,
yeah,
whatever, whoever,
yeah.
and they hit the bridge and it ripped up the bridge and now it needs to be fixed. You can't control that, right?
That's true.
But garbage all over your city streets
Yep.
can be controlled, should be
Yes.
controlled, should be a
Hmm.
top priority. When you put on a nice suit, you feel good, you look good, you act good. When you have garbage all over the place, when you have broken windows, when you have crime all over the place, it just continues to fester and grow. Timmy, we had cops walking the beat on the island, on the hill, on the city, in the city, everywhere. And we had all kinds of different times so nobody could track when we were doing it. We had we were on channel 6, 10, and 13 because of our Safe Streets initiatives, showing our crime rates went to the lowest. When I was running the campaign, they said, "Oh, under Shawn Morris, we had 2 murders more than New York City for the for the population." We did. Sadly, we had one up in the dark um, railroad tracks. That was a situation that No matter how many cops you had, you weren't going to stop, right? Bad things happen when bad things are going on. And then we had somebody murder their girlfriend who moved in the city 2 weeks prior. You could have 1,000 cops sitting out on the stoop. You're not going to stop people from doing things in their house. But we had the safest streets. There was a golf cart that drove up and down Ransom Street all night long. People could walk anywhere in the city and feel safe. They could come from any part of any community, come to the music hall, walk to the restaurants, and know when they got out, even if in the dark, there was cops walking down the street. There was a golf cart going down the street. There was always a presence of the police. Now you don't see nobody nowhere doing nothing.
No, not anymore.
And uh,
They
and
should be
and
pulling. They should be pulling the Harley Davidson out of storage anytime now. Hey, but
uh,
I wanted to take a real quick second here and change topics on one thing here. It was last year that Mayor Steeler here wouldn't meet with the Cohoes Girl Scouts for their 110th anniversary, right? We said, oh, I can't do it, I won't do it, blah, blah, blah. And then, after a lot of political pressure put on him, he did meet with them eventually, just to celebrate their 110th year. Oddly enough, here it is on the Facebook page. He's posting their 111th year anniversary of the Cohoes Girl Scouts for one reason only, Shawn. It's
yeah, I know.
because it's an election year.
Yeah,
This is the kind of scum this guy is, okay? Okay, it's all about optics for him, okay? And it just people got to see this man for what he is, okay? And he just doesn't know how to manage people. He's aloof, okay? He's people walk by him in front in City Hall, and here you walk by the mayor, doesn't even stop and say hi, how are you, can I help you with anything? He just walks by you. He's cold. He's just not a people person. It's a
no,
shame. It's a shame that you have that in City Hall, and you don't even have an open door policy where you can knock on the door and have it be friendly towards the people you elect. I mean, your door was always an open policy door. You're busy all day long, but if someone walked into the mayor's office, you found the time to sit down and give them a
yeah.
minute or two of
You
your
didn't
time.
have to be worth $1 million. You could be
Yeah,
worth $1, right?
yeah, right.
Anybody and everybody was welcome to come in because, I wasn't there to represent the richest people who didn't need government. I was there
No,
to help the poorest people who were
exactly.
struggling. And believe me, I had some real antics come into the
Yeah,
office, but we gave love and respect to every one of them. Jeannie, who was the head of the Girl Scouts, I mean, I just love
yeah,
her. She
yeah.
had to be brokenhearted. I think she was because here's a lady who's given her life to these Girl Scouts, and I think she felt probably
Right,
just as sad when
right.
they didn't show up
And
as she was when they are now using her as a political
right, exactly what
tool.
they did, and the thing is, it was citizen journalists like myself, okay, and others. We put enormous pressure on them, on Keeler, okay, in order to say, hey, get down there and do something for the girls. The girls softball program too. They're buried away, tucked in away in the corner right there. You don't see their parking lot getting paved. You don't see their parking lot getting striped the following year, okay, like that. Okay, they don't get as much money as the boys down there. Do something for the girls, okay? So here you don't do things for the Girl Scouts, okay? That's a pretty long history if you think about it, 111 years.
Everything that goes on in this city requires your attention, and I said this from day one. What makes a fantastic mayor is the love of a city unconditionally,
Yeah,
where he puts the city's people that not everybody does he know or does
no,
she know, right?
yep,
But he
right,
puts their well being above his own,
yeah,
right? My family suffered when I was the mayor because I had to attend to things that required me to be there.
and
And I had to miss some things that I wish I didn't miss. But
well, look at sometimes, Shawn. Okay, what may not be important to you as mayor is essentially important to someone who's
every
knocking on
day,
your door.
every
Okay,
day.
it means everything to them. All right. So your attitude as if you're a mayor or a council member or whatever, you got to put yourself in the shoes of that person who's reaching on out. Okay, because what they're telling you is important to them, and a lot of times
24
they just don't want to hear it.
Timmy, 24/7. And when people come
That's
to
it.
you, when they come to you,
Yeah.
it's because something's really bothering them.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to tell you, sometimes they just wanted me to sit down and listen to them.
Yeah,
I'd have
yeah,
people come in and I'd say, oh, after listening to them for 20, 30 minutes, because I didn't put a time limit. I had people come in my office where I said, look, I canceled the meetings with the city officials. I'm still sitting in here with Mrs. Jones. And at the end, you know what she'd say? I really don't want you to do anything, Mayor. Thank you for just listening to me.
yeah, and
The
that's
love
it.
of a city requires you to give everything you have 24/7, every single day, nonstop. And
Yeah,
if you don't do that,
yeah,
you will never be an effective mayor and the city will crumble like it is now. I am not a fan of John McDonald's. In fact, if I could take him outside and kick the shit out of him, I would do it in 5 minutes. But, well, not, it wouldn't take 5 minutes to kick the shit out of him. I mean, I'd do it right now in 5 minutes. Um, but I give him kudos. You know what I give him kudos for? The man is everywhere.
and he's a good communicator.
He is every single place you have to be. Do I think he's a successful politician? Yeah. Do I think he was good for the city and did a lot? No. Do I think he does a lot in assembly? No. Do I like any of his policies? No. Do I think he's a thief? Yeah. Do I think he took a raise when he should have turned it down? Yeah. But, but, but every place you go,
He's good at
there he
promoting
is.
himself. He's good at
And
promoting
sadly,
himself. Yeah,
sadly, for most people, they think if you show up, that you're great.
yeah,
They really don't realize that it takes a lot more to show up than
yeah,
showing up, I should
yeah,
say.
yeah.
But he does. So, John McDonald, if you listen to this, I like to do a boxing match with you for a fundraiser right in Lansing's Park. If you'd like to help raise some money for the veterans, we could have a little boxing match. But if you don't want to do that, I do give you kudos for at least showing up to a lot of stuff. Um, but if you show up to that boxing match, bring Cuomo with you. The both of you could take me on. I think I can win, and we could raise a lot of money for the veterans organization. So,
Yeah, that'd be,
is that a challenge? Am I sending out an actual invite? Hey, listen, this
yeah,
is an invite.
actually, you did. Okay,
Timmy
we'll come.
Thibodeau will organize the boxing match in Lansing's Park. You guys can wear no gloves, and I'll wear the big,
Yeah, I'll get Clyde down there at the American Legion. They
Clyde
organize.
can work them, give him a couple hours of instruction,
Yeah,
and then we'll do a 2-on-1 boxing match,
yeah,
and
yeah,
all the money and proceeds will go to the veterans
yeah, yeah,
organizations.
yeah,
Because one of the most proud things I am is about Veterans Park.
yeah.
Uh, and one of the things I'm getting excited about for the springtime is that Veterans Park comes alive, right? When
It
I
does.
built it, with the help of so many, even Randy Knifka, who was part of that, and all of the veterans organizations. But when we got it built, and I talked about it, I said this is a living, breathing memorial for everybody who's ever given a part of their lives to making this the greatest country in the world. And for me, when I look at life, I can see life and happening in the spring when everything comes back to life, and in the winter when things die off. To me, that's the circle of life. When I go by that park and I see the park dying off, I think of all those soldiers who died. And then when it comes back to life, I think about all those soldiers who are giving their lives and their time right now, and everybody in between. And we have a beautiful park. If you've
Yeah,
never
and
been to Cohoes Veterans Park, please go up there and visit it. Look at the
yeah.
flags, look at the names of those people, look at the bricks of the people who gave their lives. That's one of the great things that we can talk about in this city.
I got a brick up there with my name on it.
And rightfully
One of those
so. And
stamps.
thank you for your service.
And a lot of people don't know this, but Cohoes had a lot of soldiers that fought in the Battle of Gettysburg, and they lost their lives there.
Yeah,
Okay,
Cohoes has got a rich
Cohoes,
tradition.
it does, it does, it really does.
Th-
And
There's a lot of brave people that live in this small city. A lot of people giving their lives and
yep,
their look at every day that I go out. I am reminded of how great of a small community we have and the greatness of some of the people that have lived here, who have fought in the wars for us, who have gone into the military to protect us, whether they fought in a war or not. They were there to give their lives. I think of the local community centers, the Joe Lutzes, the Mr. Gullies, the John Domels. I think of the
yep,
Mr. Loudis and as
yep,
the basketball coach, and so many. And I don't want to miss a name because I'd have to do a whole podcast of just naming people who have done so much. Billy Shea for the veterans, my uncle Dick Jack, all of the veterans down at the American Legion. So many people have given so much of their time to make Cohoes a beautiful place. That's why I struggle with the move that I want to make, right? I told you I want to move to Florida.
yeah,
And I'm in the process of trying to figure out how that will all pan out for me. But I can never just leave, even though I think sometimes the city did me wrong, right?
Yeah.
Um, I never really want to leave altogether. So maybe I'll become a snowbird. That's my next option. But we have a beautiful city and we have beautiful people and we are blessed in so many ways. And so when we talk about good, bad, and ugly, we may rant about the bad. We may really rant about the ugly. But let me tell you, when we talk about the good, it's with great pride. I hope you can see it in our face and hear it in our conversations, how proud we are of this city. Um, and I know
Well,
Timmy, I thank you for your service, and you've done a lot for the little league, and I still believe that your footprint will be on that little league for the time that it exists because you were an important part of that. So thank you for your service as well.
well, am believe it or not, okay, I had a birthday yesterday.
Oh,
Okay,
happy birthday! That's right. How old are you?
it's 69.
You
But
wish.
but I think we're what did I tell you yesterday? I'm celebrating it between 1955 and 2024.
And why is that, Timmy?
Well, it's because of the 1954 when I was born. That's the date I was incorporated as a youth,
Hey, I think people.
as a new baby.
I think people finally realized we were right, and people are sending me things saying, "Man, we looked it up. You're right. They had the wrong dates." No kidding. We wouldn't have
Yeah,
just made that up.
you're
Hey,
right.
Timmy, I just want to remind everybody, right? One of the great things is that Ransom Street was really making a great comeback, and
Yeah,
why I think it's really struggling, and I don't see no great hope that it's not going to struggle. There will be an event this Saturday that is the Mac and Bowl or Mac and Cheese Bowl,
yeah,
uh, and it's put on. To help feed the hungry, right? It's for
yeah, yeah. For the food banks.
our food banks, right?
Yeah,
And you can expect 2-3 thousand people to pass through because the food bank is just so well respected that everybody wants to be part of helping people who are
yeah,
hungry.
yeah.
So if you get a chance, people go down on Saturday to support the food bank, the macaroni. Mac and cheese bowl. I'm sure you'll see a lot of friends, a lot of people you haven't seen in a long time. Have a few drinks, be safe. But I think it's going to be a great event, and I hope to see a lot of people down there. And if Ed Kenner, if you're down there, don't be afraid to bring your petitions and see if there's some Democrats down there. I don't want you to use that as a political place, but I assure you they'll be doing it. They did it at the fishing tournament and other places. It's just part of. You shouldn't be ashamed to be in a process for politics because politics is one of the most important things in this country. So if you're down there, I'll sign your petition. And
Yeah. Well,
Timmy, if you're down there, you'll sign his as well, I'm sure.
well, I'm being told also there'll be people down there carrying petitions for you.
Hey, Timmy, let me just tell you something, right? I
Mm.
thought long and hard about it. Remember, I told you the one thing you have to have is passion.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't believe I have that passion, but I'll tell you, so I'm like a Coke bottle that people are shaking up, and I can feel it going.
yeah,
I think I could run. I think a lot of people want me to. I think I could win.
mm.
But at what cost to my family? You don't think the
Yeah,
Times
yeah,
Union would just write mean, rotten story after mean,
yeah,
rotten
yeah,
story and
yeah, yeah,
bullshit and lies about me? It's been a long time. A lot of people have come to the fruition that I was telling the truth. A lot of stuff was
yeah, yeah.
all,
I
but
agree.
matter of fact, all of it was bogus. And they're
Yeah,
starting to see on the national level where the federal government uses its weapons to go after people. And don't
just
think for
like
one
you,
don't think
just
for
like
one,
you. Yeah,
absolutely. Don't think for one second that what they accuse me of doing, anybody else would be arrested for because they'd have to arrest every politician in upstate New York because there's nothing wrong with what we did unless they make it so it's not right. They,
yeah.
they make the rules go
Right.
along. I think Ralph Signorach and Shawn Morris got one of the biggest raw deals in local politics history. I think everybody realizes it now,
Yeah,
and I hope people miss me. I hope people see the difference between me and him. He said a lot of bad things about me. He was privately meeting with my wife while they were doing an investigation, saying mean things about me. He's not a good man in my book,
yeah,
and he's a terrible mayor on top of that. And I'm going to leave you with this. I always want to see the city of Cohoes rise, and I still think it's got opportunity. We just got to get out there and be the citizens of Cohoes and do good things. Pick up the garbage, pay it forward. You see something, you see shit laying in the street, pick it up, throw stuff in the garbage, make phone calls if you see garbage and crime and whatever. Do the right thing, because if it ain't for the citizens, nothing's ever going to truly happen. So that's my spiel for today, Timmy. How about you?
We're good to go. I think we can call it a wrap and look forward to the next podcast. What was this, number 7?
Number 7, and they're
Well,
getting
I
better
guess,
every day, and people are
right, and I
watching more
guess,
and more.
and I guess we're coming out with a blooper reel.
We got a blooper reel, Timmy, because it only takes you and I about 40 hours a week to get an hour podcast up. But hey, everybody, listen, Shawn Moore's Truth, Lies, Political Bullshit. Don't want to leave without saying happy birthday to Timmy Thibodeau and thank him for being a good citizen who I used to call him the Cyclops, that he had one eye and it was on Cohoes. So he's got his Cyclops eye watching everything going on. He
Well,
knows more about you than you know about yourself. But hey, Timmy, happy birthday, and I'll talk to you next week.
hey, and I just, real quick, I just put up a video there, Reconnaissance 5. That's my sister page, and we're going to be flying drones around the city again, taking pictures, updates, and everything as much as we can. I'm looking forward to going down and doing aerial views of the new Hoffmans. And that's a wrap for me. And from the Fifth Ward, signing out.
See you, Timmy. Bye
Take
bye.
care.